Now, at the top of this session, I said that time is the most valuable resource you have. But you can't use all of it at once, so it's important that we divide it. It's about not wasting, but rather saving, budgeting, and spending your time. Think of it as time is money. You wouldn't throw away money, so why would you throw away time? Now, it's vital that you don't look at empty time in your calendar and assume that it's always going to be there or it be enough. In this diagram, you can see that what's in the past shows you that the time you have already spent is gone. It's over. You can't do anything about it. However, the time that you have today in the present, if you break it down into smaller, more manageable portions of time, the tasks at hand seem less daunting and much more doable. The future plans are a good way to estimate and make rough timelines for your dates, deadlines, assignments, and tests. Remember, my favorite point to make is literally every minute that you put into school, you're getting more bang for buck. School is not free, so make sure you use your time wisely. Referring back to the kinesiology student example at the start of the session, it's important to break down the dates and deadlines for the term. Look through your syllabi, identify your important dates and deadlines, and how much your tasks are worth. Remember to also include your athletic schedule because that can be challenging in itself. Next, use a tool that I like called the assignment calculator. It's a tool that lets you figure out if you're on track while doing an assignment. It'll let you know the benchmarks you have to meet to make sure that you hand in your assignment on time and that you do all that's asked of you. Use a calendar and paper to work backwards. I find that if you write your whole semester out, it's easier to work back and see how much time you have in between every assignment and every test. And lastly, think of ways that you can keep yourself ahead of time. If you're keeping up with your tasks, don't think of it as an excuse to be lazy. Think of it as you're doing a good job and let's keep doing it. Planning the semester will also help you plan for the next semester. If you put in the constants now, you know those things won't change, so you can plan around those. At a smaller scale, it's important that you create a weekly schedule. This will help you know yourself, know your habits, your challenges, and strengths. If you track your time for a week to discover your habits, you can be flexible and figure out what needs to change and what can stay. Remember to always be realistic. There's perception and then there's actual use of time. Make sure you find the best fit. Again, start with the fixed commitments because these will stay the same through time. Practice healthy habits and routines on a weekly basis. Sleep, meals, self-care, and life stuff. Make sure to be well balanced. In your weekly schedule, also put in study time because that is important. And try to keep track of what time of the day you're most alert because this could be your most productive day. Study in small chunks and take frequent breaks. Yes, take breaks. I encourage it. And always break down bigger tasks into smaller ones. Be specific, write it down. And we all have phones, so make sure to use technology. Google Calendar, iCal, reminders, and other apps. If you have any questions about other apps I use, let me know, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. You guessed it. The next stage is to do daily planning. Make sure you keep a note the night before of what you need to do the next day. I find that it's hard to fall asleep when you're trying to make a list in your head the night before. It does not have to be a thorough and detailed list, it's more of a prompt to yourself in the morning. It helps you stay focused, structured, and on track. And let's be real, checking off things feels great, so enjoy that process as well. Now, it's one thing to brain dump all the things you need to get done, but it's also just as, if not more important, to create a system and rank what's most important at what needs immediate attention and effort, compared to those tasks that don't. This on screen is what I call the priority matrix. I didn't create it, but I've seen it in many, many contexts. The two axes are important and urgent, thus showing the importance of the task at hand. Basically, the diagram text explains how tasks should be looked at if placed into this matrix. So, for example, there are things that you would do first, do later, do next, or don't do. Now, why do we procrastinate? It's important that we understand this so we can tackle it. Procrastination is a symptom of avoidance. I'll do it later. I'll do it later. I'll do it later. And don't get me wrong, we all procrastinate certain tasks at times. I, for one, hate vacuuming. I will put that off for hours, for days, and yes, sometimes even weeks. It's human instinct to avoid things that stress us out. And understanding procrastination then starts with understanding ourselves and our own tendencies, because everybody is different. Managing procrastination then starts with anticipating and planning for our procrastination triggers. A rule of thumb I use is if you do a little bit, then you don't have to do all of it later. So by building in times in your day to do those things that you don't necessarily want to do, you actually avoid the dread of having to do it all at once later. So it's important to learn why people procrastinate. A few reasons I have are people having unrealistic sense of time. We think we have more time than we do oftentimes, so we tend to slack off. The next is concentration challenges, trouble keeping focus on your readings when you have other stuff going on in life. The next is overcommitment, difficulty with personal limits and boundaries, not having the ability to balance our personal lives with our academics. Another one is lack of clarity and uncertainty of expectations. If we're not sure of what we're supposed to do, then it's hard to stay focused and engaged. Which leads me to my next point, lack of interest. If we're studying a topic that we're not the most interested in, or we don't really like, or we find boring, it's less easy to keep focused and keep engaged with that. Fear of performance is kind of ironic in a sense that you want to do well, but you're still procrastinating. A lot of times this happens because you avoid doing the things that are difficult. So you put them off because you don't think you'll do well in them. Another one related to that is inner criticism and self-doubt. If we go in spirals and tell ourselves that we're not going to do well, we spend a lot more time in our own heads than actually doing the task at hand. Another one that you may relate to as a student athlete is fatigue and low energy. If you have many commitments in your schedule, it's hard to have energy for everything all at once. Try to think of why else you would procrastinate. It's always good to know why we do what we do. Procrastination oftentimes is attributed to distractions. They can be internal, such as stressful thoughts about athletics, sleep and fatigue, hunger, lack of hydration. So we need to think of how we can limit these distractions. There can also be external distractions, social media, games, TV shows, movies, and Netflix, friends and social circles, or environmental conditions such as lighting, clutter, noise, and comfort in your study space. I put an asterisk beside some of the external distractions because breaks are important and much needed, but with anything good, you can't have too much of it. Everything in moderation. When managing the distractions, again, I sound like a broken record, yes, but I have to emphasize, find what works for you. Make sure to give yourself the importance of well-being. Eating right and sleeping go a long way, especially as a student athlete. Sometimes you won't be able to study, and that's okay. Build buffer time into your schedules so that you don't fall behind even more. Give yourself a change of scenery if needed. Location, lighting, temperature, these little things do matter. Please be cautious though, there is a fine line between feeling not comfortable enough, such as sitting on a concrete chair, and feeling too comfortable. In the covers, TV on, where you're likely to fall asleep. Just be wary of that.